This is your favorite listener, Just Larry. Just Larry knows you're celebrating your birthday, so Just Larry's going to sing you a special rendition of a song written, produced, and performed by, you guessed it, Just Larry. And it goes a little something like this. Roman Reigns, Roman Reigns, Roman Reigns, Roman Reigns, Roman Reigns. Dude, remind me to sing you a special copy of that one just because Just Larry knows it's going to be a smash hit. No need to say thanks, Just Larry knows you like it. Peace!
Oh, welcome back to Duke Loves Rasslin, the show about pro wrestling and everything else. I am the Duke, and yes, that was just Larry singing me his special happy birthday song. It's that time of year again, folks. That's right, December 12th just passed, and it was my birthday. Thank you to all of the listeners out there that sent me messages and what have you. I appreciate you. Just Larry, I don't appreciate you so much because that's such a ridiculous song, and you know I was forced to play it again because the listeners, for some reason, they love it so much. Just yuck. On today's episode, folks, we got a lot of action going on here. The Boston Bad Boy is on vacation, but that means the Duke is going to play. That's right, we have Scrapiron Brad Sanders. He's been threatening me online. He decided to come on the show today and share a few words. We're going to have him on. My man, Reed. That's right, Shawn Reed from PugilismCo is back. He's going to go over the Wilder Fury fight, give some other information there. I know you folks like that boxing and MMA content. And we also have an old friend, James Beard. That's right, the legendary referee. He's going to come on and share his thoughts on a few things. But before we get to any of that, folks, Kanye West has called out Drake. That's right. Kanye West has demanded that Drake call him immediately and apologize. And you know something? Because it's my birthday this week, I decided that I'm going to take a page out of Kanye's book, and I'm going to call out that punk. I'm going to call out my arch nemesis, Roman Reigns. That's right. Roman, just like Kanye said to Drake, Roman, I want you to apologize. Apologize to the Duke, okay? And don't call Vince McMahon or have anybody else apologize for you. You're going to apologize for being taller than me. You're going to apologize for having bigger muscles. And you're going to apologize for having more hair on your head, Roman, okay? Don't think for 1 second that I'm going to let any of this stuff slide, okay? Like I said, I'm inspired by Kanye West and what he had to say to Drake. Roman Reigns, I know you're listening. You're going to apologize to the Duke, and you're going to do it immediately, Jack. That's right. And with that said, hold on.
All right, as I stated, we're going to have a special guest here, a guy that sent me that message where he was talking all kinds of this and that. So I figured, you know what? Let's get this guy back on the line here and figure out what the heck is going on. Welcome back to the Duke Loves Wrestling podcast, Mr. Brad Sanders, a.k.a. Scrapiron. What's going on?
You know, everything's going good now because you can clearly get my name right. Because I think the first time you had me on the show, you had me confused with some basketball coach. And I felt very disrespected. I thought we were friends. But it seems like you stepped it up. You got my name right this time.
You got to understand something, Scrapiron. Brad Stevens is basically an institution here in good old Boston, Massachusetts. He's the coach of the Boston Celtics. They're expected to win the championship this year.
Yeah, well, good for him. That does me no good to be confused with Brad Stevens. I don't get a paycheck with a name that says Brad Stevens on it.
Listen, well, why is it every time I talk to you, you always get so puffed up? Don't you understand that I will sue you?
Listen, you keep making threats. Keep making these idle threats. I see you in the message boards. You're always poking the bear. And if not me, you're always poking someone else. And you know what? The difference between me and other people is I poke back. So you got to be careful.
I don't want to be poked. I don't want to be poked. I just want to make that clear right now. I'll leave you alone. I don't want to be poked. I just wanted to reach out to you, Scrapiron, because, you know, it's the end of the year, and you've had a heck of a 2018. just wanted to get your thoughts on what's going on in the indie scene and what you have coming up.
Well, I could speak on my stuff per se, man. It has been ridiculously crazy for me. I've been given opportunities beyond measure. I've been able to go places that I didn't think would be possible at this moment, in this point in time in my career. But, man, I just got back from West Virginia. I challenged for the AIWF World Heavyweight Championship against Eric Darkstorm. And then this upcoming weekend, I'll be at Wrestling for a Cause in Oklahoma. And then the following weekend, I'll be in California for SinCal Professional Wrestling. Be making my debut out there in California. And I'm trying to find something in between, maybe Arizona, maybe another California show on the Friday drive there. So, man, it just stays busy. And since this past weekend, my inbox has been flooded with, ask me if I want to come to Ohio, if I want to come to Kentucky, if I want to come to different parts of Tennessee, do I want to go to, a few other states, Kansas. I just did some stuff in Kansas. Now I'm getting hit up from companies in Kansas. So it's been my schedule is, I'm going to do some moving around. I'm going to do some shaking and moving and make some room for some things because looks like big things are going to happen.
Well, let me ask you, because you were in literally the highest rated segment last year for Monday Night Raw, when you were in that segment with Roman Reigns. How has that affected your career since?
Well, we'll be honest with you. I haven't personally seen any gain nor loss from that. It is kind of cool when people kind of make that connection and they go, "Oh, you were one of those guys." I think one of the coolest things is hanging out with kids. This on the way back from West Virginia, I had a chance to stop and talk to a kid who's being adopted by a friend of mine, and he recognized me from the Raw spot with Roman, and we ended up watching it again on my phone on YouTube and seeing his reaction. He was doing his little body back and forth, mimicking the moves, and if anything, man, it's just it kind of with the younger generation, it really helps connect with them because the way I wrestle, the way I carry myself, the way I am in the ring and the way I cut promos, I try to gear myself more for the adult crowd, more for the teenagers and the adult crowd. So having something like that to help me connect with the younger generation it's pretty neat. But no fame nor glories come from it, and I didn't expect any. So it just is what it is.
That's interesting because I've been having discussions with various people in the business, and the notion of being in those special spots in the WWE where you may not necessarily be the feature, but you're in that spot. Is it worth taking, or should you continue to hold off on doing things like that and wait until you actually are the featured person in the WWE?
Well, those pictures you were posting, I didn't realize how many guys who are now on the main roster or in NXT have worked as an extra at some point in time. Did it help them? Maybe not. But who's really to say? Who's really to say that helped or if that hurt them? Keith Lee, who's now in the NXT, he was an extra a few times. He didn't do it a lot. He did it a few times, but here he is. You've had world champions as extras. Does it devalue them? No, because I think the way social media works today and the way the wrestling world is today, it's easy to find those indie guys and follow their career all the way to the main roster. It's pretty easy. So there's not really any curtain to hide behind. So it is what it is. And, you just got some people that's going to disagree and just let them disagree. And it is what it is.
Sure. I mean, when you look at Alexa Bliss, Charlotte Flair, you look at Daniel Bryan, you look at Tommaso Ciampa, all those folks were extras at some point before they made it up to the big time. So, absolutely. So
it's like this in the I was going to say this, in the acting business, how many guys have worked as behind the scenes or maybe they worked as an extra in a movie and then boom, all of a sudden now they're being cast as lead guys or lead women.
Sure.
Sure. It happens.
Denzel Washington had to start doing acting classes and things of that nature and work his way up before he was a featured man. So that's a fact. There's no two ways about it.
Yep.
So Scrapiron, tell us, what does the rest of 2018 have in store for you in 2019? What should we expect?
Well, for the rest of this year, I kind of mentioned before, is I'm making my debut at this will be my fourth company. In the past 4 weeks, I've made a debut somewhere new in the past 5 weeks. In 5 weeks, I'll have wrestled in 5 different states. I have made debuts for 5 different companies. Man, so the rest of the year is all about just cementing the fact that I'm good enough to not only work in the state of Texas, I'm good enough to work everywhere. And I'm not going to sit here and say I'm main event everywhere. I'm just saying I'm good enough to work everywhere. And that's not a cocky statement. That's a confident statement. That's looking at myself and knowing my value. I'm good enough to work just about anywhere that gives me the opportunity, and it's just taking those chances and proving that I'm good enough is what I'm doing for the rest of the year. January is all Texas during the winter months. Unfortunately, here in Bomb City, Texas, a.k.a. Amarillo, Texas, the weather here gets a little tricky. Sometimes it's really icy. Sometimes it's really full of snow, and it's dangerous to get in and out of. So I try to stay in the state of Texas for January and February. I will be doing a shot to Kansas in February, but it's not so far away that it's really a risk. So that'll be the first 2 months to be Texas, pretty much Texas-based. I know January 11th, back up. January 5th, I'll be back at SOAR. Me and Magnificent Malico are still battling. I wish he would go on somewhere. Really getting sick and tired of seeing his clown face. And then January the 11th, I'm looking forward to this. I'm tag teaming with Marty the Moth against Jack Evans and a luchador named Triton down in El Paso for Lucha Frontera, and I'm pretty excited for that. January 12th is a secret. I can't say anything about that. I got something I got in the works there that I really can't speak on at the moment, so cross your fingers and pray that, what I'm going to do is going to be beneficial. And then I'll have to look at my schedule for the rest of January because I'm drawing a blanket now, but busy, extremely busy.
Well, it sure sounds like it. And you mentioned Lucha Underground star Marty the Moth, and shout out to Turnbuckle Chick on Twitter. She was the one that hit me to him before he even became the mega star that he is now. So you're actually going to be teaming up with him.
We will be tag team partners January 11th. Yeah. We met recently here in Dallas and kind of chit-chatted about what we got to do. He knows Jack Evans real well, and I know Triton real well. So it's going to be a very interesting night.
Well,
especially when you get the personalities of he and I together.
Let me just give you a little tip there, Scrapiron. Watch your mouth when you talk to the Duke, because Marty the Moth, he's willing to take a couple bucks and do a quick turn, just so you know. I don't know if you knew that or not, but that's just a heads up.
It's funny you mention that because I'm kind of the same way myself.
No, that's the problem.
Depending on what president is on those bucks, depending on what kind of job will get done, just so you know.
That is definitely a problem. If fans want to reach out to Mr. Scrapiron, they want to reach out and figure out where you're going to be so they can check you out live, what's the best way they can reach you?
You can always add me on Facebook. It's just simply right now, Brad Sanders. I'm the only good-looking bald-headed wrestler with that name. And then on Instagram, you got Brad Sanders TEX. Is it a TX? TX. We'll have to double-check that, dude, because I can't remember off the top of my head. And then Twitter's under the same handle, Brad Sanders TX. Yes, it's TX. Brad Sanders TX. I just looked. So Twitter and Instagram, Brad Sanders TX. I'm very active on my Instagram. I'm starting to get more active on the Twitter. I need more followers on the Twitter, so I need some help there.
Well, that's a challenge there, folks. Scrapiron Brad Sanders, he's looking for more followers on Twitter, and if more of you follow him from particular parts of the country, maybe he'll come out there live and put on a show for you. So keep that in mind. There's something for everybody. All right, listen, Scrapiron Brad Sanders, I appreciate you coming on the show. I appreciate you not beating me up. And
well, you're welcome for now.
Well, That's not very nice. But please, like I said, watch your back because Mari Lamoth, I may just have to put a couple of Benjamins in his pocket.
Well, you just make sure no one puts any in mine next time I see you then.
It's time to run the ropes. It's when I go over the top stories in the world of professional wrestling. Let's go. John Cena set to return. That's right, folks. John Cena, he's coming fresh off of that new movie that he has coming out, Bumblebee. And as a result, he is going to return to the WWE. Okay? But there's speculation that it's not going to be for long. I don't know what's going to happen here. It's interesting because they were talking this week about the fact that when you film a movie, you can't just go out there taking bumps in wrestling because of the physical toll that takes on the body and how that can impact the movie. Because you have so many other people working to make this movie a success. If a wrestler gets injured during a wrestling match, you could ruin the whole movie because they may not be able to perform at an elite level. So it's an interesting concept, and I mean, hey, The Rock, he's the highest paid movie actor, and I'm sure John Cena wants to be on that level, so he's doing what he has to do. It's just an interesting concept there, but hey, I know that the WWE misses him. The fans miss you. So Cena, whatever you do when you come back, I hope you destroy everybody, including that punk Seth Rollins, including that punk Dean Ambrose. Just start kicking some butt real quick, and then you can go back to doing whatever the heck it is that you do. That's right. Shout out to John Cena. Finn Balor injured. Yes, folks, it's unfortunate. Finn Balor, he suffered an injury within the past week, and that's sidelined him. So not only can he not compete at the upcoming pay-per-view, but they took him off the Mixed Match Challenge as well. This guy is just, he's had so many starts and stops, and it's just really unfortunate. I hope that this latest injury will be the last one because I'm telling you, the company needs him. Balor, you really haven't gotten going the way that you could, and the fans really support you, pal. So here's hoping that when he does come back, he gets paired up with his fellow members of the club, and they reform Bullet Club and then run roughshod all over the WWE. And hey, let's have Roman Reigns come back, and then they can once and for all destroy the Shield. That's my mission here, okay? It's my birthday. I'm going to say what I'm going to say here. Shout out to Finn Balor. I hope you get well, pal. Natalya gets called out. That's right, folks. This storyline is really taking an interesting turn here. Natalya Neidhart, she got called out by Ruby Riott, and Ruby had the audacity to have a table with the picture of Jim the Anvil Neidhart. God rest his soul. Jim the Anvil Neidhart is on the table. And Ruby Riott says she's going to put Natty through the table so she and her father can, quote, be closer than ever before. Oof. I don't know how I feel about that. It just, you're going to have to let me know, fans. Are they going too far? It's reminiscent of when Sasha Banks brought up Charlotte Flair's deceased brother and, that whole nonsense there. It just, have they gone too far or is this all above board here? Let me know. Type in Duke Loves Wrestling on Facebook or on Twitter. Let me know. We'll put up a poll and see what you have to say about it because, geez, I got to tell you, it made me feel a little uncomfortable. Can't deny that. WWE TLC. That's right, folks. It's coming up this weekend here. WWE TLC. It's going to be something interesting live on the WWE Network. We have Charlotte, Asuka, and Becky Lynch. That should be the main event there. They're going to battle for the SmackDown Women's Championship in a triple threat match, and I believe it's going to be a TLC match. Now, Asuka beat the hell out of Charlotte and Becky Lynch with a kendo stick after Charlotte started it first to end the go-home show of SmackDown this week. So, hey, we're going to have to wait and see what happens with that match there. My money's on Asuka. I'll have to ask James Beard later who he thinks is going to win the match, but my money's on Asuka. I think it's time to put the belt on Asuka. Asuka! Nobody's ready for Asuka. That's right. It's not going to hurt Becky Lynch to lose the title, especially if it's Charlotte that takes the pinfall. Charlotte doesn't lose anything because she's still going to be the queen of the division. It is what it is, but it'll be interesting to see what happens there during that match. But that's the big one. There are other matches going on for the pay-per-view, but that's the one that my money's on, and that's what I want to see there. That's right. And the number one story in the world of professional wrestling is Vince McMahon. That's right. Vince McMahon continues to be the biggest story in wrestling, and he may be the biggest story in all sports. That's because the XFL have announced where their teams are going to be located for the upcoming season. And not only that, Vince sold an abundance of WWE stock recently. So he's putting together a nest egg, folks, and there's no telling what he's going to do with that money. It's very interesting that Vince McMahon is pulling money out to put in his pocket. What's he going to do with all that cash? Is he going to take it to the XFL? Is that just money for him to live off of so he doesn't draw a paycheck anymore? Or is there something else going on? Is it time for the WWE to be sold, possibly? I don't know. I mean, he's still the majority owner, but who knows? It's very interesting, folks. I'm telling you right now, keep an eye on the movements of Vince McMahon in the next 6 months because something's up. Something's up. You heard it here from the Duke. Something is up. And whatever happens, it's going to be a big deal. That's right. You heard what I think. Now, what do you think? Do you agree with me? Do you think I'm a jerk? Maybe something in between? Head over to Facebook. Head over to Twitter. Type in Duke Loves Rasslin and let me know. Up next, Shawn Reed.
This is former WWE superstar Al Snow and magician to the blind. You're listening to Duke Loves Rasslin.
All right, my man from PugilismCo, Mr. Reed. How are you, brother?
Duke, my brother, happy belated birthday to you. Duke loves wrestling, and we love you, Duke. Happy birthday, brother.
Oh, man, you buttering me up now, man. You better have some bread with that butter, man. Listen, Reed, we gloss over it a lot, but let me start with this. Explain to the listeners what Pugilism Company is and why it's a site that they definitely need to check out.
Pugilism Company is a fistic arts website. A lot of people will say boxing website, but we will dabble into the mixed martial arts realm from time to time. Anything that consists with fighting with your fists, we're interested in. Now, that's primarily boxing, obviously. We have a YouTube channel, Pugilism Company. Just Google that or search that on YouTube. And I am the Blackbird Sugar. I do podcasts several a week, usually about 5 to 10 minutes in length, just based on whatever fight just happened or is going to happen or is rumored to happen. But, yeah, we're kind of doing it like that. We also do special interest videos. We had a 5-part sit-down series with Earl Spence where maybe one of the 5 parts was actually about boxing, and then it got into special interest things. Like, just people should check it out. I think they'd really like it if they gave it a shot. Give us a shot. PugilismCo.com. Pugilism Company.
I can tell you straight up that when I bring up Pugilism Company to listeners online and what have you, they're thankful for it because you can only get so much from some of these mainstream sites, and really they're just regurgitating the same nonsense. But what's interesting about PugilismCo.com is that you're bringing a unique perspective to the combat sport arts there. You know, your analysis of what could happen, your breakdown of what did happen, and also your eye for who's going to be the next big thing. It's spot on, man. So just want to throw that out there that folks really enjoy it.
And with that, we don't just cover heavyweights, or we don't just cover American fighters. People are too regimented in what they cover. The mainstream fighters like Naoya Inoue, he's a guy from Japan. He's a certified badass. There's Srissaket Soarang Visai from Thailand, I believe. we have articles on those guys and podcasts on those guys, and the love we get from their fans makes it all worth the while. It makes it all worth the while for sure.
It's good stuff. It's good stuff because, boxing is trying to make a strong comeback. So to have a place where you can get top-notch analysis, but then not only that, it's a one-stop shop. You'll learn about MMA and some of these other things going on as well. It truly is a great site there. So I encourage everybody to check out PugilismCo.com. And, of course, we'll put up the website on the Facebook and the Twitter. Now, let's start with the undercard here, Reed, because – if Reed tells me to check out a fight, I'm going to check out a fight. And ESPN had a card this past weekend, which was the lightweight unification bout. It was Pedraza versus Lomachenko. Am I pronouncing that right?
Yes, Vasyl Lomachenko against Jose Pedraza. Lomachenko was the reigning WBA champion. And Pedraza came in with the WBO title at 135 pounds. They both met. Yes, sir.
Now, that was the main event of the fight, but that was not by far the talk of the night. Tell folks what happened on the undercard that just blew everybody away.
Of course, you're alluding to Teofimo Lopez. And, yes, he indeed stole the show. A 44-second knockout of a fighter, but he's a credible journeyman. Typically, he'll go at least 6 or 7 rounds or 9 or 10 rounds, and then you'll either decision him wide or you'll stop him late. In this case, the first right hand that Teofimo Lopez threw, it hurt Menard to the point he got on his bicycle and recover, and then, man, an even more vicious looping right hand face planted him. He fell like Apollo Creed in Rocky IV. Like his face caught him, and he was down for a while, man. It's the KO of the year for 2018. As I stated on my, I don't want to see another KO nominated. Not this year. That's Teofimo Lopez KO of the year 2018, and the kid is just 21, Duke. Like his potential is scary.
Well, what shocked me with the KO is that when he hit him, the man froze in time. Like he he did a freeze frame and then he fell like a tree.
What that is, literally,
awesome.
That's his brain. That's his brain short circuiting. The light switch was literally turned off by the impact of that punch. Literally turned off. And here's the thing. They're going to have to find this kid better opposition because he's going to catch a case if he keeps beating up on dudes like that.
Oh, my God. Are you kidding me?
Some higher caliber guys because he'll run through those guys just like that every time, and it'll just be a trail of bodies before long.
Well, there's talk of tell me his name again because I don't want to mess it up there.
Teofimo Lopez?
Teofimo Lopez. There's talk of him possibly challenging Lomachenko at some point.
Well, they have the same promoter. He's a very ambitious 21-year-old. If they put a contract in his face tomorrow to fight Lomachenko, he would sign it. Now, the problem with that, Lomachenko is a decorated amateur, 2-time gold medalist, not just a participant in the Olympics. This dude won 2 gold medals in the Olympics. And he's already, like most of your Russian fighters, they have an extended amateur background, like over 400 fights. And so with that being the case, he's already 30 years old. In fact, he'll be 31 in February. Lomachenko will. To me, as good as a 21-year-old is, I don't really want to put him in with a good 30 or 31-year-old. Right. But if any kid could handle it, real talk, it would be Teofimo Lopez. And I really love his sport. I really love his showmanship. So the fight itself, the card, it followed the Heisman Trophy presentation. So after Lopez face plants Menard in 44 seconds, he whips out a Kyler Murray jersey. Of course, Kyler Murray won the Heisman Trophy right before the fight. Just to have that intuitiveness, the wherewithal, the creativity to go there, I love everything about the kid. He's one of my new favorite fighters, bar none.
Well, I think we're going to be hearing more about him for years to come, too, because the dude ain't no joke. There's no two ways about it.
Absolutely.
Now, like I said, that's the undercard we can talk about here. Let's get to the real nitty-gritty. This amazing display of, I don't even know what to call it. Tell us about that Tyson Fury fight there. And I'm going to call it the Tyson Fury fight for a reason. Tell us about the Fury fight, please.
In our private talks, you called it a robbery. While I don't disagree with you, I'll use a kinder, gentler label. I'll say it was a controversial decision. Now, I do feel Tyson Fury won the fight. His boxing, first of all, he's the most unique fighter I've ever seen. 6'9", 260 pounds, jiggly body, real skinny legs, no muscle tone or definition at all. But yet, as he states, I have heavyweight Floyd Mayweather defense, and that was exactly how he looked. He moved with that level of dexterity. Footwork was flawless. Coordination was great. Wilder could barely hit him. He took Wilder's a basic 1-2 guy, meaning left jab, right hand. Left jab, right hand. That's really all he throws, and an occasional left hook after that. Well, Fury took Wilder's jab away from him by out-jabbing him, which left Wilder basically telegraphing right hands all night. And with Fury's defense, he could see the right hand coming a mile away, and 9 times out of 10, Wilder would overshoot the right hand. Now, of course, I believe it was the 9th round, Wilder finally caught up with him and dropped him. And then in the 12th, that was an epic knockdown. Everybody and their mother and Fury's mother probably thought he was knocked out. And you'll love this. I've heard Undertaker references to describe how Fury sat up just out of nowhere, eyes in the back of his head. All of a sudden he sits up and he beats the count. And he gets up and he actually fought on even or even better terms with Wilder to finish out that round. But, yeah, so Wilder gets 2 two-point rounds. That's not enough to justify him winning the fight. In no way.
Let's talk about that knockdown because, like you said, everybody thought that Tyson Fury was out for the count. Wilder finally caught him, knocked him out. It was clear that man was out. And then right about the count of 6, he just sprung up. Like it was amazing. It was like something possessed him to get himself up. And then, like you said, he intelligently not only defended himself, but he was offensively boxing to end the fight. What do you make of something like that? I mean, first of all, should a ref just called it? Because we've seen that throughout history where a ref can look at somebody get knocked down that heavily and just say, nope, that's it. They don't even count.
First of all, I've heard rumors that they think maybe Fury's fall and then the way his head hit the canvas may have awakened him because he was out at first. That's a plausible theory. He was completely unconscious and he fell so hard and uncontrollably at 260 pounds that the force of his head may have woken back up. That's highly possible. But you're correct. The stoppage or no stoppage, that's one of the flaws in boxing, just the subjectivity of it. Like you said, refs have stopped fights like that. The fight we just talked about, the Teofimo Lopez fight, when the kid face-planted Mason Menard, the ref might have counted to 2, and then it was obvious to him Menard wasn't getting up, so he just waved it off right then. I have seen referees standing over a prone fighter who's not moving the way Fury wasn't moving. And like you said, he didn't move to the count of 6. I've seen plenty of refs wave that off. They get to 4 or 5, they're like, okay, yeah, he's not getting up. This is it. But it's part of the subjectivity. Team Wilder was complaining, that should have been a stoppage. No, it could have been a stoppage, not should. It all ties into the subjectivity of the sport, which is why I love it, but why, a lot of other people kind of shy away from it. I get both angles of it. I get both sides of it.
Well, one of the things that I noticed with that fight there, Reed, is that for the first time we really saw a major flaw in Wilder's game, which is he just does not have the legs to last in a match. I mean, the man was completely exhausted having to take the punishment that Fury was dishing out but also the fact that he couldn't lay hands on him.
I think part of that was the frustration of not being able to land his shots. Swinging and missing, it tires you out more than swinging and connecting. And he swung and missed quite a bit. And then the mental fatigue of, man, I can't hit this guy, man. This dude is really skilled. This is like the best skilled fighter I've ever fought. But that ties into the beauty of Deontay Wilder. He's upfront about his lack of technical expertise and boxing acumen. But all he needs is one or two clean shots, and he can hurt any man in the world. And that's what we saw. He didn't get the KO in this case, but he damn near did, which is why I want to see the rematch. We have to right the wrong. Fury's still the lineal champion. Wilder still has a WBC title. And I want to see an immediate rematch. I don't want either guy to fight anyone else. I want them to go straight to each other. And they're talking like that's going to happen, fortunately.
Now, you're talking as an analyst and as a fan of the sport. Talk to me as a promoter. If you're Deontay Wilder's camp, do you do everything in your power to avoid having that fight again, or do you jump right back into it?
Wilder's built a little bit different. Unlike Anthony Joshua, now I've said on record, none of these guys are afraid of each other, but some of these guys allow their promoters to make scary decisions for them. Wilder Fury only happened because Joshua's promoter wasn't ready for Anthony Joshua to fight Deontay Wilder just yet. So just like that, Tyson Fury swoops in, and now he stole the show. Now Fury's arguably the best heavyweight in the world once again. Just like that. It's a no guts, no glory situation. The real loser in all of this, so yeah, the decision was kind of controversial. Duke says it's a robbery. But to me, boxing fans won. We got an epic heavyweight fight, and that's something we don't get like we used to. This reminded me of the days of Tyson Holyfield or of watching Larry Holmes in the 80s or watching Ali in the late 70s. This fight had that feel to me, and it was ebbs and flows. You saw good technique. You saw power punching. You saw the two best heavyweights in the world. What I learned is Anthony Joshua, despite having 3 of the 4 title belts, he's not the best heavyweight in the world. It's either Tyson Fury or it's Deontay Wilder.
Absolutely. And I'll tell you right now, that was the most entertaining boxing match that I've seen in years. I can't recall a more entertaining boxing match. I mean, the Mayweather versus what's his name from MMA, the fool there.
Conor McGregor.
Yeah, Conor McGregor. That was entertaining for a different reason, because we were just waiting for Floyd to just completely finish him off, because Floyd was playing with him the whole match. So that was entertaining for a different reason. But this match, you knew that Wilder, if he caught him, he was going to knock this fool out. But it was clear that Tyson Fury was in his head, and the things that he was doing, and the dancing, and the sticking his tongue out, and do it all. It was literally like watching a video game. It was like watching Mike Tyson punch out, and no matter what you try to do, the computer is just kicking your butt. Like that's just the end of it. You know, it was hilarious to watch, and it just thoroughly
putting his hands behind his back. It's uncanny to see a man that fluid and coordinated at 6'9", 260 pounds. Like it blows. I've never seen anything quite like him in a boxing ring. I haven't ever.
Well, and the fact that he's in there against a legitimate killer, and he's playing with him, it's just right. It's like, and the man doesn't look any like he was, like you said, he's jiggly and just he's old, and he looks like his best days are behind him, and then he puts on as you predicted, he put on a boxing clinic now, because as you said, those travelers, those gypsies, they know how to box. That's part of the culture. And legitimately, he put on a clinic during that match.
And that's the background is what makes him comfortable. He's in there, like you said, with a killer, with a certified headhunter. The problem with Tyson Fury is when he's out of the ring. That's when his life spirals out of control. When he's in the ring, he's golden. That's his safe haven. That, you know, he's got a 300-year lineage of doing nothing but fighting. So he was literally born to do what he did against Deontay Wilder, literally.
But that was a hell of a match, no two ways about it. It lived up to the hype. It's just at the end, the finish didn't make any sense to me. But either way, first of all, I do believe that the ref should have called it, seeing that knockout, because it was just so brutal. But then, for them to score the match as a tie, as a draw, just a disgrace, a complete disgrace. And there was one judge that was just completely out of left field with his scoring of that match.
It was like he had it like 115, 111, which means he had Wilder winning by 4 rounds. Now, you get a point for each round with the knockdown, so that's 10-8. Within the other 12, I could maybe, being generous, I could give Wilder 2 additional rounds up, so let's say he won 4 rounds, 2 of them by 2 points. Being completely generous, he did not win a 3rd extra round beyond the 2 knockdown rounds. He just didn't. He didn't.
I don't even think he ever outpunched the man.
Right. And when you get a draw, it's like this. When you get a draw on another man's home turf, they're basically telling you that you beat him. And that, mean, Fury beat Vladimir Klitschko in Germany. Then he came to America and got a tie with Deontay Wilder. That really tells you all you need to know about Tyson Fury. Don't judge that book by its cover. Please don't. Don't judge that book by its cover.
Good call. Good call. We're talking to Reed from PugilismCo.com. Reed, what other big-time fights, if any, are coming up in the next month?
So we got Pacquiao-Broner coming up in January. Next weekend, we have the Charlo twins, Jamal and Jamil. They're sharing a card together. They'll be fighting at Barclays. It's kind of a showcase event. Neither guy that they're fighting should offer up much drama, but they're 2 high-strung, very quotable, loquacious guys, and they really love putting out. They love dishing out hurt on people, and this will be on Fox. So as you're watching NFL this Sunday, you'll see a lot of commercials referencing the Charlo fight coming up. Please check them out. But yeah, Pacquiao he's the first big fight of 2019. We have Canelo Alvarez fighting this weekend. Canelo versus Rocky, only it's a dude named Rocky Fielding. Yeah.
Canelo's obviously going to destroy that man. I don't see how it's going to be any other way.
He's moving up to 168. He's trying to get a title in a 3rd weight class. Rocky Fielding, who I had never heard of until he signed to face Canelo. He just so happens to be a champion at 168 pounds. I've seen footage of him. Canelo will stop him in 5 or less. But, yes, Canelo Alvarez, since Florida's retired, Canelo is the biggest name, the biggest marquee attraction in boxing. He'll be fighting on DAZN, which is a streaming app service. And actually, you can watch that fight for free this weekend. For free, F-R-E-E. I'm not playing. For free this weekend on DAZN.
Now, that's an interesting concept there. DAZN is taking the WWE marketing strategy of offering 1 month for free, and then each subsequent month after that is, they charge you a fee, $10, $9.99, whatever it is per month.
Right.
So clearly there's something to that WWE strategy of enticing you with a big fight for the first month and then hoping that you'll stick around for all the other content that they'll provide you thereon.
What it's done is it's taken the power away from the networks. Case in point, in boxing, I don't know if you knew this, but after 45 glorious years of broadcasting the best fights in the sport, HBO, at the end of this year, they will no longer show boxing anymore.
Yep.
And that's all because of the streaming services. We got ESPN Plus. We now have DAZN. I'm sure Al Heyman and PBC, they'll come up with something. It's giving promoters, it's giving like your Vince McMahon's, instead of being beholden to the pay-per-view company or to USA Network, they stream it themselves. They control everything.
Yeah, it's true. It's true. That's where the technology is going. And it's funny, Reed, because that's why a lot of folk ask me my thoughts on the WWE and the current product right now, specifically Monday Night Raw, because, what they're churning out is not necessarily what the fans are interested in. And it's like, well, what do you think about that? And, you know, people are turning away and they're not watching and the ratings are down. And I remind folk, it's not necessarily that the ratings are down. The consumer is interacting with the product differently in 2018 because you have the network and you have YouTube and you have Hulu and you have all of these other mediums. Folks are on Twitter or folks are on Facebook interacting with me while Monday Night Raw is happening. I'm posting pictures, I'm talking about the matches, and they're deciding whether or not they're going to tune in or they're just going to follow the coverage in that manner, but they're still interacting with the brand.
Exactly. A lot of people may not order the pay-per-view, but you best believe they'll be on YouTube an hour after the fight's over trying to see the pay-per-view.
No doubt about it.
It's not that they don't want to see it. It's not, like you said, it's not a lack of interest. It's they know they can pirate some stream from somewhere or that it'll be on YouTube within an hour. That's exactly why it's happening the way it is.
No doubt about it. No doubt about it. Now, coming up, switching speeds here, Reed. Coming up on December 29th, you have UFC 232. I don't know how this happened, but it's a co-main event. The first one being the women's featherweight match between Chris Cyborg and Amanda Nunes, and then the main event is the light heavyweight match between John Jones and Alexander Gustafsson. I don't understand how the hell John Jones managed to jump into this and be the main event when you have Cyborg versus Nunes, literally the biggest women's match in history. What is that all about?
For better or worse, John Jones is an attraction. He's probably more of a counterculture hero, for lack of a better term, if you want to say it that way now. But the thing about it, Duke, when he fights, he's must. If he's juiced up, if his performance is enhanced, he still puts out awesome performances. And you know, like I said, per Nate Diaz, everybody's on steroids. He comically says it, but he always says it. So if everyone's cheating, is anyone really cheating? I'm not absolving Bones Jones because he's a liar. He's a snake. He presents himself as this honest guy, and he's anything but that. But the thing about it with women, when Rousey was running it, she drew the male fan also. She had the potty mouth. So it was very easy to have her be the main event. For better or worse, guys, hardcore MMA fans, they want to see Cyborg and Nunes fight. But you're not attracting the generic mainstream MMA fan at all with those two. You're just not. You know, we don't even have to get into why. They're just not going to be physically attractive. It's just like tennis versus the WNBA. Dudes will watch women's tennis because there's attractive women in tennis. Those same dudes don't give the WNBA the time of day. They just don't. And I'm a father of all girls. I love the WNBA, but I understand the male audience. So to answer your question, it's because of the two women. Hell, it could be Rousey against Cyborg, and we would all know she's going to get shit kicked. Then you could probably make that a main event, but Cyborg and Nunes alone as the main event, nah, you can't do it. You can't do it.
That's a heck of a take. And I'm not in a position to argue with it because look what the UFC just did. I mean, they went out of their way to find a men's match to top this card because they didn't feel that Cyborg versus Nunes, once again, the most anticipated female match probably in history, and they didn't feel it was strong enough to lead the pay-per-view. It's amazing.
And I'll even go further. I'll say it's the most anticipated women's combative sporting event. Not just MMA, even like there's been highly anticipated women's boxing matches like Christy Martin versus Lucia Riker, but it never came to pass. This will be the greatest display of two women combative sports athletes in the octagon, in the ring, whatever you want to call it, together at the same time. I'll be all over it. I will be all over it. And if it was the main event, I wouldn't be any less all over it. So yeah, it's a big deal. Jones in a rematch in a comeback fight, that sells itself also. But I'm thinking Gustafsson is probably damaged goods at this point. And yeah, the real fight, the fight to see is Cyborg and Nunes. No doubt about it.
No doubt. Before I let you go, I gotta bring up the Cowboys, man.
Yes, because I guaranteed, last time I talked to you, it was like an hour
2 weeks
before the
ago.
Saints game started. I guaranteed they would win, and they did. We're like on a 6-game winning streak. Man. It's the shirt, Duke. It's the F. Jerry shirt. I'm taking all credit. I'm taking all credit for F. Jerry.
Now, listen, at the same time, the Patriots are starting to slip.
Yeah, and they're losing games in ways that we just don't see the Patriots lose. But every year for the last 5 years, they've been written, they lose a game. Oh, Brady, he's losing a step. Oh, is Belichick, is the game passing him by? Look, they'll be in the AFC Championship at least, if not the Super Bowls. We all know that. Now, I don't see them beating Kansas City again, even though they beat them in the regular season. That was a very close game. I'd like to see a rematch of KC versus the Rams in the Super Bowl, assuming the Cowboys can't advance, of course.
Well, no matter what, we know that the Super Bowl is going to be entertaining because these teams that are going to make the playoffs, or at least they're in the hunt, these are all exciting teams, man. I mean, just what Kansas City is doing this year is just off the charts. I don't even know what to say about it. The Rams have slipped a little bit lately, but they're still an exciting team in their own right. I mean, we got some things going on, man.
It's been a good product this year. I mean, the Cowboys' defense, who knew? I knew they had drafted some good guys. I didn't expect them to all gel this quickly. The Chicago Bears, they're looking like the 85 Bears at times with that great defense that shut down the Rams last week. I mean, they're doing it big, man. It's a good product overall. And the good teams they have either a great offense or a great defense, or they're balanced, one or the other. There's really no good team with a clear weakness.
Good call. Reed, if fans want to get in touch with you, what's the best way they can reach you?
You can reach me on Facebook. I'm Shawn Reed. You can please visit the Pugilism Company website. Again, that's PugilismCo.com. You can also search Pugilism Company on YouTube. We have a litany of podcasts and special interest videos. I am the Blackbird Sugar. Read the Blackbird Sugar. We look forward to hearing from you guys. Please hit me up.
And Reed, let me tell you something, man. When I listen to your show, I get so frustrated with the fact that you make me laugh so much that because I gotta literally pause the show, finish laughing, and then hit play just so I don't miss anything.
Just to me, too many podcasters, a lot of them are younger than me. They just take it way too seriously. They take it. I know we're talking about boxing. It's a sport where men can die, but we don't need to take ourselves so seriously. And let's just try to loosen it up. That's all. I don't even try to be funny necessarily at times, but it's just my nature. I'm a laid back dude. That's just who I am. I like to have a good time, and I'm a boxing fan, so I just mesh all of that together, and what you get is what I do on my podcast. But I appreciate the compliment, bro.
Hey, man, it is what it is. His name is Shawn Reed. Once again, PugilismCo.com. Reed, as always, man, we appreciate you.
Anytime, dude. Anytime.
This is Alexa. And this is Brianna. And we're Sugar and Spice. And you're listening to Duke Loves Wrestling.
All right, welcome back to the Duke Loves Wrestling podcast. My man, the legend himself, Mr. James Beard. How are you, James?
I'm doing great, Duke. How you doing, man?
Oh, man, I'm doing fantastic, and it's great to hear your voice, James. You and I, most of the time when we talk to each other, it's always online where we're laughing about one thing or another.
Exactly. Yeah, it's nice to kind of get a little more up close and personal for a change.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Listen, are you doing all your holiday shopping there, James?
I'm not much of a shopper, but I try to sneak out and do a little bit here and there, and maybe do a little bit online. I'm one of those lazy guys. I wait till the last minute to do everything.
Hey, listen, man, it's funny. When I was just getting out of college, I was in retail, and one of the things that I can tell you for sure is that the busiest shopping day, especially for men, was Christmas Eve.
I guess we're all alike. Huh?
Yes, right.
The women say we're all alike. I guess they're right about that part.
Well, you know, the best part about it was it didn't matter what you had; they were buying because they didn't have any other choice. So it just was what it was, right? You know, it's crazy because James, this time of year traditionally is a big time of year for pro wrestling, but it seems in modern times things are actually slowing down. You're a guy that's been in the business, geez, I mean, at least 30 years, more than 30 years, I'd say. Talk to us about how it used to be during the holidays for the pro wrestling business.
Well, you know, it's really kind of strange, but I was talking to a friend of mine the other day about this very thing, and it used to be that Thanksgiving night and Christmas night were the biggest nights of the year for wrestling, and you know, you think folks wouldn't want to come out on those nights, but I think they're probably getting tired of the turkey and the dressing and all that kind of thing, and they want to get out of the house and get away from the family or whatever, whoever's been hanging around with them for the day, and they want to do something different, so they would go out, you know, and those were the biggest nights of the year, and now it seems like everybody kind of shies away from running on those nights, so it's a much different situation than it used to be.
That's for sure, because I mean I know that you spent a good portion of your career basically working with the NWA, so you know, Thanksgiving and Christmas, those were some of the biggest events of the year, and you could always count on a packed house on those nights,
absolutely.
Right?
Yeah, absolutely. Those were big nights, and you know, usually you'd have a big show with you know, some special things going on, and usually something exciting happened during that night to kind of kickstart things for the next year, and you know, it's not the same anymore. It's just a different situation. I understand that, but you know, it's kind of weird how things change over the years.
That's for sure. I mean, and that, like we said, that was a heck of a tradition. I mean, there was a time when the Survivor Series, even, you know, later on when the WWF started getting going in the mid to late 80s there, the Survivor Series is on Thanksgiving night. Right,
yeah. Yeah, well, you know, Christmas night used to be a big blow-off night. You know, one of those nights when everything that's going on all year long, and it all kind of comes to a head, and something big happens, and it also kind of kickstarts something for the next year. So, you know, that was the way things were, I guess, booked and arranged in those days, and things are so different now that you know, you don't have that happening, and it used to be something to really look forward to. But you know, it's just another night.
Because you would have your cage matches and what have you there. Like you said, the biggest blow-off matches would usually happen Christmas night there. Geez, right. Yeah, we're missing that. James, for a guy like yourself who, you know, you're a legendary referee, you've been an executive dealing with talent and what have you, been up and down the road all over the world, this push for women's wrestling to really be brought back up at least to equal footing. What do you make of this? And especially with the WWE, who, you know, they're pretty much last to get to the dance, so to speak. You know, a lot of these other promotions have been doing that for years. But what do you make of this? Is this just a fad, or do you think this is the way things are going to be going forward?
Well, I hope it's not a fad, because, you know, the gals, the ones that really are serious about the business and really serious about training and learning, they're just as exciting to watch as the men are. At least to me, they are. If they're skilled and they know their stuff in the ring. You know, I've had a lot of girls that I've trained and worked with over the years that have done really well, and it's been kind of a shame that they have a limited supply of people that they could wrestle and compete against that were of their caliber, because it just wasn't taken that seriously. And you know, I'm kind of glad to see that happen, and I'm not surprised that WWE is the last one to the dance. They are about most everything else. They usually let everybody else make their mistakes, and then they try to come in and capitalize on the situation. And you know, that's just business. That's the way it works. And it's been a long time since they've really come up with anything new or innovative. It's been years since that's happened. They usually kind of respond to what's happening out there, and that's what they're doing in this case. And you know, the platform they have, it's a good thing, because they've got a lot of gals up there that seem to be capable of delivering some really good matches.
Absolutely, absolutely, and it's interesting too, because a guy like yourself that, I mean, you're really at the forefront of indie wrestling, so you get to see a lot of the top talents out there as they're developing, or, you know, in the case of a guy like Tim Storm, where they're completely seasoned and they're just kicking everybody's butt. Right. What do you make of some of the new things that are on the horizon? I mean, I hear that Cody Rhodes and the Young Bucks, they're making a little bit of noise there. They might put together something called All Elite Wrestling and you know, stuff like that. What do you make of a concept where another promotion is going to take that next step with some names and try to make it out there?
Yeah, it's interesting that these guys have, you know, they kind of come to the realization that in WWE, which is where everybody seemed to always want to go, there's a little bit of a glass ceiling there for some guys, and you're really kind of at the mercy of how you're booked and how you're used, and of course that's true anywhere, but in that case, there has traditionally been 3 or 4 or 5 guys at the top, and it's really hard to make any inroads in being one of those guys. So a lot of the guys who've made their name there, they've kind of decided that, you know, I can go out on my own and make a living and kind of have a little freedom, and also maybe even start something new that you know, catch on, and I don't have to have that restriction there over my head, you know, and I can go out and even promote, you know, and that's kind of what they're doing. They're kind of taking the bull by the horns and doing it themselves. You know, of course, I've been working with NWA for a long time, and my goal was to try to revitalize that name and make it more relevant again, like it I believe it should be. And once it was handed off to Billy Corgan and Dave Lagana, you know, they've done an incredible job of continuing that build, you know, and enhancing that, and I think there's room for that kind of thing, you know, that there's another way of doing things, and I think people are realizing that the WWE way is not the only way, and I hope that those guys in the NWA continue to go along that path of creating a real, true alternative instead of just copying what they see on TV, and I think that's the pattern, the path that they're going on, and I wish them all well. You know, I've done everything I can to help the NWA, and I will continue to do that. But you know, I want everybody to succeed, and if they're doing it the right way and they create an alternative that people buy into, you know, I'm all for it.
It's funny because one of the things that really was a pleasant surprise and caught a lot of folks off guard was when the NWA did that special on NWA Women's Champion Jazz.
Right.
Talk to us about the importance of featuring the Women's Championship, and especially with a veteran like Jazz.
Well, Jazz is a special gal to me. I worked her first match back in, I don't know what year it was, in the 90s. She first started out, and I've known her ever since. She's like family to me, really. And we've been in touch and worked together over the years. And when the opportunity came to give her that push in the NWA, that was something I really wanted to do. And when Billy and David took it over, I'm really happy that they saw the value in keeping Jazz around and featuring her, because she's a special gal. She's, you know, she was the last, before they started that Diva Championship in WWFE, whatever it was at the time. She was the last women's champion, and then she was the first Divas champion. So she's been around a while, and she was really almost too good for the girls back in those days.
Absolutely.
You know, she was one of a kind, and I can't be happier that they're seeing the value in promoting her and promoting that championship and keeping her around, because I think that with the talent that's available out there right now, I think that's something that can be be special in the NWA as well as WWE or whoever wants to feature women's matches now.
That's a good call. We're talking to James Beard, legendary referee, NWA executive, and overall great guy. James, we're seeing something interesting going on with Becky Lynch, where she seemed to have caught fire similar to the old Stone Cold Steve Austin deal there, where she's the anti-hero, so to speak. But, fans are really digging it. She got punched in the nose by Nia Jax.
Yeah, I've never seen so much made of one punch in my life, I don't think. Those things happen in wrestling. I realize that we're in a different time now, and the fans and the fanboys tend to think of things a little differently. But wrestling's a rough sport, man. I mean, I don't care if you're a woman or a man. It's rough, and things happen. So when that happened, I kind of laughed that they made such a big deal out of a girl, getting tatered. I haven't figured out the big deal yet, but for whatever reason, it made a lot of noise and brought a lot of attention to her, and evidently she's capitalized on it.
Absolutely, and in fact, some would speculate that that punch was probably the best thing that ever happened to her because it made the fans want her more.
Yeah. It just baffles me, that such a big deal was made out of it. I mean, I don't know if it was just because she was a woman and that happened or what, but I know a lot of the old time gals that were around back in the 60s and 70s and 80s, who worked for Moolah and all of that, and I've talked to a couple of them, and they really think it's funny, that such a big deal was made out of that. But God bless her, if that's what it takes to get her over, and she takes the ball and runs with it, then good for her. That's all I can say.
What's going on with the NWA these days, there, James? What can fans expect, especially in the new year? And honestly, Duke, I'm not as not on the inside as I was because it's really been handed off, and Billy Corgan and Dave Lagana really run it day to day, and they make all the decisions and take all the steps, and they said right up front that it's going to be a slow roll. They're taking their time. They're not trying to just rush into anything. They're taking advantage of working with different people. Even this last promotion that they did, the 70th anniversary thing in Nashville, that was really promoted as much by Jeff Jarrett and his global group as it was the NWA. So it's they're not sticking their neck out too far right now with a lot of things, and they're trying to get their bearings right about who they're going to use and what direction they're going to take as far as promoting and that kind of thing is concerned. And I honestly don't know all the details about what the final decisions are going to be, but I do know that they have a plan, and I know that so far every step they've taken has been a positive one. And that series, 10 Pounds of Gold, that Dave has produced and has been remarkable. I mean, creative and remarkable and just unbelievable to watch. And I think that I think they're going in the right direction. I hope that they get the opportunity to open things up and become a little bit more, I guess a little bit more known to the average fan than they are right now. And right now a lot of the wrestling fans are aware that the NWA is kind of raising its head again, but a lot of the average folks probably don't even know who the NWA are because they haven't been around that long. And most of the last 20 so years, the NWA hasn't been as relevant. So, I'm hoping that they continue to make those steps toward becoming what they need to become. And I believe it's important that the NWA become a player in the business. Yeah, it's funny because, and you and I have talked about this a few times before, one of the most heartbreaking things for me as a wrestling fan is to talk to some of the younger fans and not much younger. I'm talking about kids who could be between 25, 30 years old, let's say. And they don't know Ric Flair from NWA.
No.
They don't know, Steamboat. Of course, they don't know Tommy Rich. They don't know Dory Funk or whatever. They don't know any of that stuff.
Yeah, when you mention Harley Race and Lou Thesz and Dory Funk and Terry Funk and they don't Jack Briscoe. A lot of the younger fans have no idea really the significance of those guys, and those were the greatest of all time. And along with some other guys I can name also, but those were NWA guys, and it's a shame that wrestling that part of the wrestling business has not been, I guess, upheld, and I just think that it's time that the NWA become a little bit better known and that people understand what that history means and what's behind it all.
Absolutely, because I'll tell you right now, James, as a young fan growing up, I couldn't consume enough wrestling history. You know what I mean? But I was fortunate enough to be there at the tail end of the territory, so I still got Bill Watts and UWF and Global.
We're almost to a point now to where a lot of fans don't even know who Hulk Hogan is.
Oh my goodness, it's the truth. It's the truth. They could never imagine his popularity.
Yeah. It's just, and I understand that to a degree. He hasn't been relevant for a few years, and then he had the issue, where he wasn't on TV much, and those guys just disappear from the landscape, and the next generation don't know who they are. And I think it's a shame, really, because that a lot of that history is not preserved, and that's one of the things I love about the NWA. The history really means so much, and I just want to see that. I'm a history buff anyway, not just in wrestling but other things. But in fact, that was my major in college, so I believe that it's an important thing for us to know. And whether you're a wrestling fan or politics or whatever else, I think you need to know history in order to know where you're going to go. And it's just a shame that so many don't.
It really baffles my mind, because when you think, and I'm not knocking this at all, because at least he's getting a significant payday, but Ric Flair is going to be more known for being the guy in the rap video than he's going to be for being the last world champion.
Oh yeah.
It just,
I have no idea how significant he was when he was actually the traveling NWA champion. Before WCW became the thing for him.
Sure.
It's a shame, but that's the way things are, I guess.
It's amazing. It's amazing. James, are you still refereeing out there? Are you still refereeing matches?
I go out a couple of times a month. I've really slowed down a lot, and I'm getting to that point to where I always tell myself if I get to a point to where I don't feel like I can work at an elite level, then I'll quit. I still feel like I can do that, but I don't want to be one of those guys that hangs on and is around too long. So I'm picking and choosing my spots now, and I'm still working with a couple of promotions, just kind of on the booking side of it and trying to help out some of the younger guys and that sort of thing. But I'm not as active out on the road as I was the last few years. I'm really kind of slowing that down some, and I want to get. I really kind of want to spend a little time this year, maybe getting in a position to where I'm doing more clinics and training situations, so that I can kind of, I guess, pay it forward, pass it along a little bit better that way. So that's one thing I'm going to kind of concentrate on this next year. And Tim Storm and I have talked about trying to do some of that together, and I'd really like to do that. Give us an excuse to ride together too. So
Of course, and shout out to Tim Storm. Cody Rhodes is a little annoyed with me because I've called him out so many times when he held the belt, talking about how he was ducking Tim Storm. It took a little offense to be called him out.
Cody did a good job with the short run he had with the NWA, and I'm hoping that's something that they can revisit at some point and get back into it. There were some contractual issues that kept that from happening, but he's a good guy, and he's done a lot to elevate himself and promote himself, and he was a good guy to have involved with for that short time.
Oh, absolutely. But I'll tell you right now, brother, and this is my opinion, 100%. They're all afraid of Tim Storm. Not a single one of them wants to step in the ring with Tim Storm because they understand that it's going to be a long night. So,
I can't tell you how pleased I am and how happy I am for him that things have worked out the way they have worked out for him in the last couple of years, or the last year or so especially. Before Billy Corgan took over the NWA and Tim had just won the title, I thought he was the right guy at the time, and I had no idea. I wish I could say I was that smart, but I had no idea that he was going to be such a perfect fit for the guy to make that transition from one era to the next. And he was. He's just the perfect guy. The story they told, the personal issues that they relayed, which were all true, in that 10 Pounds of Gold series that Dave Lagana developed, it's just magnificent. The way it came across, and the attention he's gotten, and the I guess the elevation to his career that he's had over this has been very satisfying to me, because number one, he's a good friend, but the other thing is he's a guy that deserves it, and I'm just really happy for that.
Shout out to Tim Storm. That's my guy right there, man. I definitely, I make it a point to mention his name as often as I can out there. So
he's a special guy. He's about as close a friend as I've got, and I'm incredibly proud of everything he's done and accomplished in the last, especially in the last year and a half or so.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Before I let you go, James, because you're such a modest guy, I would be remiss if I didn't reiterate this point, and it actually was a point that when Tim Storm was on the show, he hammered home. You actually wrote the book on pro wrestling that was used in Japan, and we're talking about guys who didn't even speak English, but they learned the moves and learned how to call moves in the ring because of the book that you wrote.
Well, that may be a little overblown, but the real story for that is that after I had been over to Japan the first time, I really thought that first trip over there was my only trip. I thought, well, this is just a special deal. I'm gonna get to do it, and I enjoyed it and that kind of thing. Well, they evidently liked what I did, and they brought me back. And the second trip I went over there, it was just me and Japanese guys. So there were no foreign guys at all on the first leg of the tour. And so they kept me over to work in the training center between that tour and the next tour, which they did bring some other guys from over here over. And while I was in the training center, the Kabuki was the booker, and Kinyu was the main guy, and they asked me to write every wrestling term I could think of, and write it down in English and explain what it is and that kind of thing. And I thought, well, that's kind of crazy, but I did it. It took me 2 or 3 days to get it all down, but there was a big, long list of things. And what they ended up doing is they put it in like a booklet form, and they started using that to work with the young guys, the green guys, to kind of teach them that this is this and this is that. And there's a lot of wrestling terminology that they don't have words for in Japan, so it's all English. If you get in the ring and call something in English, they should understand it. So it was kind of a fascinating thing to do, and that's what got me into training guys. Also, I started getting in the ring with the guys and then showing them what this is and what that is, and what this word meant and that kind of thing, and that kind of led to me working with the younger guys, and that led to me training guys, and it just just kind of snowballed from there. But so I get writing the book of wrestling may be a little bit overblown, but yeah, that's true that I did do that. So
man, you were being modest. You literally took people who couldn't speak English and taught them how to call moves. So when they were wrestling the gaijin, the English speaking wrestlers, they all could communicate with each other with ease.
Yeah, and that's the way that's the way they taught it over there. So it was pretty cool situation. And I got to go back, and I would typically go to Japan and do a tour and then stay and work in the training center until the next tour, and then after that next tour I'd come home and then go back and do the same thing over again. But I got to work with a lot of young guys over there, and some of them I still stay in touch with after almost 30 years. I still hear from them almost weekly, and it's pretty satisfying that some of them have gone on and done pretty well. So I'm proud of that part of it. Yeah.
That's awesome. Listen, James, if folks want to book you for seminars or what have you, what's the best way they can reach you?
Well, I'm not hard to catch. I mean, I'm on Facebook. I don't have I'm not very. I guess I'm not a very good businessman. I should have probably had a website and all that kind of jazz, but I don't. I mean, if you want to catch me on Facebook, I'll answer anybody. And there's plenty of people out there that know how to get in touch with me. So if someone wants a clinic or a special situation, where I'll even come in and referee some. So. If that's what they want to do and it's the right situation, I don't mind doing that. But
that's awesome. And folks, we'll put it up on the Facebook and the Twitter page, a link to James's Facebook page. And I can tell you from experience, if you send him a message, he's going to respond to you. So absolutely.
Oh, yeah. There's been a few times I wish I hadn't responded, but I do respond to everybody.
Listen, James, before I let you go, because I have to ask you this here. You got Becky Lynch, Charlotte Flair, and Asuka. They're going to be wrestling each other at TLC, the pay-per-view coming up this weekend. Who do you have closing 2018 as the WWE SmackDown Women's Champion? Becky Lynch, Charlotte Flair, or Asuka?
Well, I honestly don't keep up as well as much as I should, but from what I've seen, from a booking standpoint, I'm almost leaning toward Becky Lynch. I think Charlotte is the perfect champion for women up there, but the way things have been developed in the last. I guess the last couple of months, especially 3 months or whatever, it seems like Becky Lynch is the gal that they could probably ride for a little while, and Asuka and Charlotte aren't going anywhere. They're both too good and too well known to leave the top I guess the top echelon of the women up there. But I think they're both gonna be important cogs in that women's division, and of course on the other side with Ronda, and Nia Jackson, I think they've got a lot of talent up there, and some other gals too that are good,
Absolutely. So you heard it there first, folks. There, the legendary James Beard, he's picking Becky Lynch to walk out retaining the SmackDown Women's Championship this weekend. Listen, James, as always, brother, I appreciate you. It's always a pleasure to speak to you. Best to your family, and that's that.
Duke, I appreciate that, and I don't get to talk to everybody beforehand. I hope everyone has a nice Christmas, and I hope it's a happy one and a safe one. And this has been a rough year. We've lost a lot of good friends, and I hate to think about that, but think about your family and friends, and tell them you love them.
Hey, this is the Duke of Dorchester, the one, the only, the man of the hour. Yeah, can you handle that, baby? I want to tell you this. You've been listening to Duke Loves Wrestling.